Welcome back, dear viewers, and in this segment of our program we are going to talk about the first Russia-Africa Forum, which wrapped up its activities in the Russian city of Sochi on Thursday. And to shed more light on this summit, we are joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the foreign minister. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine. So, Mr. Ambassador, tell us more about the significance of the summit as Egypt and President Sisi was participating as head of the African Union.
It's one more step in a big journey concerning Africa.
Yes.
We have witnessed in Egypt the Euro-African Summit. We have seen the Arab-African Summit, the Chinese-African Summit. Now we are talking between Russia and Africa.
Yes.
And as our president is the chairman of the African Union, now he's marketing for this continent where we think, although Africa is the second largest continent concerning population, it is the poorest one. And the money flow going out of Africa to pay its debts and its imports invoice is much more than the money it's coming to Africa through its exports or investment. So this cannot continue for long. And Egypt made a story of success that we already convinced the Chinese to come to invest in Africa with the Egyptian experience and Chinese finance. Same thing with the European Union.
Yes.
Now we are talking to Russia, and Russia is interested to come back to Africa. The volume of trade between Russia and Africa is not something eminent. 40% of this trade is between Russia and Egypt.
Yes.
We need to show to the Russian and to all our main partners where we can invest in Africa, where we can trade with Africa. And of course, on our side as Africans, we have a big homework to be done. Africa is still suffering from bad ways of transport, deteriorated banking system. We have to learn how to ameliorate this matters, because it is without roads, without these systems, we cannot really expand our trade or our investment coming to our continent. That was the main task of our president in Russia.
Yes.
Of course, there is another task, which was Egypt's relations with Africa. And of course, he met many of his counterparts, especially the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, and it was a positive meeting. The third dimension of the visit, it is the Egyptian-Russia relations. Russia and the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, and the Eastern Bloc of Europe, they were our main trade partner up till the 70s. And the situation was a little bit deteriorated because they left us when we chose to go for the peace process. And now our main trade partner is the European Union. It's not bad at all that we restore this very important market to us, and to bring the Russian again to invest in Egypt. And President Putin mentioned this clearly, that they are going to invest in Egypt in many fields, especially in the Suez Canal zone. So many dimensions of the visit, and thank God, in my opinion, all of them get a successful results.
Yes, sir.
Right. Good morning, Ambassador Bayoumi. And my second question to you about the sustainable development vision for President Abdel Fattah Sisi and the Egyptian administration 2030-2065 that is already started to be implicated on the whole of Africa, while Egypt is attaining the chairmanship of the African Union. In light of that particular important summit in Sochi with President Vladimir Putin and President Sisi, and those huge steps taken, where do you see, and especially after President Putin have in the summit declared that Russia is looking forward for partnership with African countries in the field of economy, in the field of other fields, and not only economy. We need also to talk about trade. We talk about also about foreign trade and foreign investment in many African countries. So in light of that releases or statements released by President Vladimir Putin while he met with President al-Sisi, where do you see the Russian role when it comes to sustainable development in Africa?
It would come immediately in trade, of course. We want to enlarge the trade relations between Africa and Russia. Second step, it is investment, of course. But as I said, we have a big homework to be done in order to attract more and more investment in Africa. It can come in education and training. And we are proud as Egyptians that we are hosting thousands of Africans learning in Egypt and trained in Egypt in all fields, from military staff to medicine to Al-Azhar al-Sharif to many dimensions of education, helping Africa to do that. Coming with the Russian, I think Russia also has a big possibility to come back and to feed this side of the relation. Even cultural relation also, it must be tackled in a new dimension of the relations. Many things, and the agenda is very heavy. The sky is the limit there.
Right. And
So,
also,
yes, Dina.
do you still have time? Right.
Yes, yes.
And also talking about the Russian-Egyptian partnership when it comes to military cooperation, when it comes to, like you kindly mentioned, awareness and education, the progress of education and empowering education. And when it comes to the Suez Canal zone, which was mentioned inside that gathering or that forum in Sochi. If you like to elaborate.
Of course, the Russians are keen to start their presence in the Suez Canal zone. And in the Suez Canal zone, we are giving chances for storage, for merchandise, for industrialization. And the attraction here that we say that if you produce in Egypt an Egyptian product, you can export it to the Arab world, to Africa and to Europe, exempted from any custom duties or any trade barriers. This is the trick about us. So we say always that Egypt is not the market of 100 million. No, it is a market of more than 2,000 million inhabitants in all these markets where we are welcomed and where we are exempted from any taxing or any custom duties in those markets. So the Russian knows that, the Chinese know that also, and I hope that very soon all the indicators which are already positive for the Egyptian economy will be even more and more with the new contribution of the Russian, of the Chinese, of the United States, of Europe, of the Arabs. We have really a good chance in order to make our sustainable development much more better.
Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister, thank you, sir, for being with us. And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of the Breakfast Show. I'd like to thank my colleague, Dina Hussein. Thank you, Dina. And
Thank you so much.
see you tomorrow with a new crew.